It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. The masters and the geniuses and the heroes of civilization all lived hard. Lives, expanded the billionaire. They trained tough. They played through pain, to borrow a term a lot of superstar athletes use these days. They pushed their potential fiercely. They were ambitious, ceaseless and ferocious when it came to the complete capitalization of their grandest potential. The Latin root of the word passion means to suffer. These women and men suffered for their visions, ideals and aspirations. They suffered for the increase of their skill and sacrificed for the realization of their prowess. They endured enormous anguish as they advanced their crafts and abandoned their temptations. And I must tell you, these illustrious performers also suffered for the state of the world. Playing small with your promise demotes our world, you know. Because the planet becomes a poorer place without your greatness in it. Suddenly, the billionaire fell to his knees. He lay flat on the floor and closed his eyes, folding his arms over his heart. The tycoon then began to snore loudly. "What the heck are you doing now, brother?" asked the artist, appearing both confused and amused. "Voluntary discomfort," was the speedy reply. "More snoring. I want my teddy bear," he cried, "and my jammies." Stone Riley then began to suck his thumb. "He's unreal," laughed the entrepreneur, clearly entertained by yet another stunt of this maverick industrialist. One could see the billionaire was now smiling, apparently impressed with his comedic skills as well as his unusual ability to make a teaching point. Remaining on the ground, he said, "The single best way to build your willpower is to voluntarily put yourself into conditions of discomfort. The spellbinder calls these strengthening scenarios. When I was much younger, and my ability to command myself to do what I needed to do when I didn't feel like doing it was much weaker, I'd give in to my lesser urges so easily. My self-discipline muscles were very flabby because I wasn't exercising them. The spellbinder knew I needed to become a lot stronger so I could install the 5 a.m. routine, in a way that stayed with me my whole career. So, he had me actively put myself into situations of hardship, and it worked like magic." "What kind of situations?" asked the artist. "Once a week, I slept on the floor." "You're serious?" quizzed the entrepreneur. "Really, absolutely," the billionaire confirmed. "And I began taking cold showers every morning. Twice a week I'd fast, like so many of the most accomplished women and men of the world have done to capitalize on and manifest their primal power. It's remarkable how much time I'd save during the fasting windows when I wouldn't eat. And striking how clear my thinking would be and how much energy I'd have. Oh, and when I'd be at my loft in Zurich, to promote my toughness and grit, I'd do some hard winter training by running in the snow with only a t-shirt and a pair of shorts on." The billionaire stood up. "It's exactly what I've been suggesting since we got to the Taj Mahal. You have the capacity for world-class self-control. Science confirms it. The real key is to push your brain to develop new neural pathways and to force your willpower muscles to flex and stretch, intentionally working these natural resources up to their highest level. This is how anyone can become so strong, courageous and undefeatable that, no matter what obstacles they face and difficulties they experience, they continue on their quest to meet their glorious goals." Why do you think Navy SEALs and members of the SAS, true willpower warriors, actively expose themselves to such potentially spirit-crushing scenarios? All those long runs in the rain, with heavy backpacks on, crawling through thick mud in the middle of the night, eating brutal food and living in a Spartan setting, confronting their fears by performing tests like jumping into the ocean from cliffs, backwards, with blindfolds on, or enduring exercises involving psychological degradation so they train themselves to transcend what most limits them. Look, cats, bravery, and the capacity to do the difficult things that are necessary for the fullest expression of your greatness, isn't a divine blessing. Nope, not at all. It's a voluntary practice. Toughness, and a will of iron, takes devotion. So, I very much suggest you begin to suffocate your demons, slay your dragons and hug your monsters by doing more demanding things. This is one of the surest routes to masterful achievement and a private life you'll be ever so proud of at the end. You know, this makes me think of the Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw. Boy, did that dude have a cool beard, the billionaire said awkwardly. Ever seen it? He kept on. I have not, the artist responded. You should, it's gnarly, the mogul noted. He then snapped his fingers 8 times. After this, an unknown voice bellowed from somewhere within the mausoleum, the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. The voice grew silent. George Bernard Shaw wrote that in his play Man and Superman, a 4-act drama that he produced in 1903. All I'm trying to say is this: when it comes to fulfilling your gifts, talents, admirable ambitions and instinct to change the world in whatever way most resonates with you, never, ever be reasonable with yourself. The billionaire paused, and then did something his 2 students had not seen anyone do before. He kissed the area of flesh between the index finger and thumb of his left hand. You gotta love yourself before you can lift the world, by the way, he muttered with a grin before proceeding with his mentoring. Inspiring, the artist admitted. What George Bernard Shaw said. Research proves that training yourself so your willpower becomes maximized is one of the crowning achievements of an epic life, the billionaire continued. The Welsh explorer Henry Morton Stanley observed that self-control is more indispensable than gunpowder. Definitely inspiring, the entrepreneur echoed. Look, said the billionaire. It's such a myth that celebrated athletes and legendary artists and revered statesmen and stateswomen had more natural willpower than the rest of us. That's just a big lie. What's real, he declared, is that these exceptionalists began as ordinary people, and through relentless practice and constant drilling to wire in excellent daily habits, their power to manage themselves against their cravings and temptations grew stronger until the culture perceived them as superhumans. Small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, yield staggering results, commented the artist, happily reciting the valuable brain tattoo that he'd embraced on this wondrous journey. He reached over and grasped the hand of the entrepreneur. That's right, acknowledged the billionaire. What looks to the human eye like invisible and infinitesimal optimizations around your willpower, when performed daily, or what make you into a Michelangelo or a Da Vinci or a Disney or a Chopin or a Coco Chanel or a Roger Bannister or a Pele or a Marcus Aurelius or a Copernicus over extended periods of training. The true geniuses, all, started out as ordinary people, but they practiced building up their strength so much and so often that showing up at world class became automated. Here's another brain tattoo the spellbinder taught me. Legendary performers practice being spectacular for so long that they no longer remember how to behave in non-spectacular ways. So, practically speaking, where do we start? The entrepreneur asked. Because I know both of us want a lot more self-discipline, and to have excellent habits that last a lifetime. Especially getting up at 5 a.m. Follow me, instructed the industrialist. Mr. Riley led them down a corridor of the monument, past a series of dim rooms and into a small chamber. In one corner sat a blackboard. This simple model is based on the latest studies on how habits are formed. He began. Your starting point is to create some kind of a trigger. To embed the early rising ritual into your mornings. This could be as simple as having an old school alarm clock next to your bed that goes off at 5 a.m. When we get to Rome, I'll explain why you shouldn't have any technology in your bedroom. Rome, the entrepreneur and the artist exclaimed at the same time. The billionaire ignored them. Once you've got the trigger of your alarm clock in place, the next step, as you can see from my diagram, is to run the routine you want to encode. So, we just get out of bed, right? Queried the entrepreneur. Yup, said the billionaire. It sounds obvious, but jump straight out of bed before your reasoning mind, the prefrontal cortex, can give you a bunch of excuses about why you should go back to sleep. It's in this very moment that, by getting out of bed, you build the early rising neural circuit in your brain through the power of neuroplasticity. And remember, brain pathways that fire together, wire together into a potent neural highway, over time. It's in the very instant when you're faced with staying on the mattress or standing up and starting your morning in a great way that you have the chance to make your willpower stronger. It's uncomfortable at the start, I know. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end. Interrupted the artist, reinforcing another of the spellbinder's brain tattoos. Yes, agreed the billionaire. The next step of the 4-part pattern to program in a new ritual is to make sure you have a preset reward in place. The reward is what kickstarts and then grows your drive to get the new habit done. Always use the power of rewards for the advancement of your triumphs. So, let's assume you do what you know to be right instead of following what's easy and sprint out of bed fast, as soon as the alarm goes off. I'll explain exactly what to do during your victory hour from 5 to 6 a.m. when I walk you through the 20-20-20 formula. Man, are you ever going to teach it to us? The artist interrupted again. He wasn't being rude. If you were in that chamber with those three, you'd sense that. He only spoke that way because he was so interested in the 5 a.m. method. That's all. The 20-20-20 formula is the subject of tomorrow morning's coaching session, the billionaire offered with the utmost grace. For now, let's stay centered on the third step. You need to set up a reward. That's what the eminent researchers on willpower tell us is essential to create behaviors that stick. Your reward for rising with the sun could be a nice piece of dark chocolate for dessert at lunch. It could be taking a nap later in the day, another favored rite of the planet's greatest creatives. It could be treating yourself to the book you've been wanting to buy for your library. You can figure out what feels right for you. Got it, said the entrepreneur. She was now sure that all this information would significantly elevate her business game and dramatically uplift her mindset, heart set, health set and soul set, leading her into a truly excellent life. Good. That brings us to the final point in the pattern, said the billionaire as he touched the piece of chalk to the word repetition on the blackboard in that room of the Taj Mahal. The way to annihilate the weakest impulses of your lower self and to free yourself of the cravings and temptations that are blocking your best is through ceaseless repetition of the new behavior you're working hard to install. The word that comes to mind here is steadfast. Be steadfast in your commitment to remaining a lifelong member of the 5 a.m. club. Be absolutely dedicated and excuseless in following through on this life-altering self-promise. Each time you follow through, you'll deepen the relationship with your sovereign self. Each time you rise at dawn, you'll purify your character, fortify your willpower and magnify the fires of your soul. I guess what I'm trying to help you to wonderful people appreciate is that the real measure of your majesty is shown not in your outer moments before an audience, but in the soft and early light of lonely practice. You become undefeatable in the world by what you do when no one's watching. I've read a fair amount about championship sports teams, said the entrepreneur. Really helped me build superb squads at my company. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that what took the winning team to victory was less how they played in the last seconds of a close final game and more how disciplined they were at practice. Exactly, agreed the billionaire. The brilliant moves in the last seconds of the championship match were automatic, the result of tireless hours of repetition of those splendid moves during training. Cool point, the artist thought to himself. I want to get to one remaining learning model this morning before I let you cats go, one that will make it incredibly clear how installing a habit follows a 66-day process. Yet, before I do, I did want to share a few more fast practical points on self-discipline. Great, the artist replied. Today's lesson has been big for me. I know it'll help me beat procrastination, and I'm sure it'll improve the quality of my art. And I've already been making progress on calibrating my physical fitness. He has, agreed the entrepreneur with a wink. Well, just remember that willpower weakens once it gets tired. Scientists call the condition ego depletion. See, you wake up each morning with a full battery of self-control. That's why I want you to do the activities that are most important to the rise of your inner empires at the time when your capacity is strongest, at 5 a.m. Here's the thing. As you go through your day, going to meetings, checking messages and performing tasks, your ability to self-regulate decreases, and so does your capability to handle temptations and manage weak impulses. The fact that human discipline muscles get tired from all the decision fatigue explains why so many massively successful people end up doing something foolish that destroys their careers. They gave in to the urge that causes their downfall because all day long they were making important decisions. By the time it was evening, they had no willpower left in their battery to manage the craving. Super fascinating, remarked the entrepreneur. This explains a lot. So, the key is rest and recovery of the self-control muscle, explained the billionaire. Never allow it to get too tired. Your willpower really is weakest when you are most tired. Key awareness to build on here. We make our worst decisions and our lowest choices when we're exhausted. So, don't allow yourself to get exhausted. Period. I have a powerful mentoring session on how the best in the world protect priceless assets like their willpower through the lost art of personal regeneration planned for you later. Mr. Riley began to cough. A concerning, throaty cough. Not an insignificant one. Oh, he added, regaining his composure. Please also know the research also supports the idea that external order increases your discipline. That's why Steve Jobs made sure the workplace at Next was minimalist and painted all white when he was there. Mess lowers your self-control as well as steals your cognitive bandwidth. Maybe that's why so many so-called geniuses wear the same uniform every day, the artist commented. They want to keep order and structure in their lives. And they understand that each morning we wake up with a limited amount of willpower as well as mental focus. So, rather than wasting these valuable gifts by spreading them over many trivial choices like what to wear and what to eat, they automate as many basic things as possible, so they can concentrate their highest powers on just a few important activities. Now I'm getting how geniuses become geniuses even more. If all I did every day was my art and only a handful of other things, I wouldn't suffer from decision fatigue, as you call it. And that would mean I wouldn't waste so much time in the evening, and make so many bad choices as the day ends, like watching stupid TV shows, eating so much junk food and sipping too much tequila. Okay, declared the billionaire. You folks clearly now know, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end. That insight should be well on its way to settling in as a default belief of your mindset. Now, let's deconstruct that powerful brain tattoo of the spellbinder into a potent model, which explains the 3 phases every habit installation goes through so you have even more firepower to lock in the regime of rising at dawn. You'll absolutely love what you're about to learn. Promise me you'll turn up the volume of your listening as we go through this. Then we'll call it a morning. We promise, the entrepreneur and the artist expressed together. Pinky promise? Asked the billionaire, putting out a little finger. Yes, responded the entrepreneur as she locked pinkies with her mentor. Yes, agreed the artist, as he did the same. Terrific, enthused the magnate. One of the security guards who had led the 3 companions into the structure walked in and pulled a chart out of a backpack. He shone his flashlight onto it so all could see what had been printed on it. On the coding of any new habit, you'll move through an initial period of destruction, said Mr. Riley as he pointed to the first phase on the diagram. Keep at it and you'll definitely move ahead into the second stage of the process. where new neural pathways are formed and the real installation begins. This is the messy middle. Finally, as you stick with your practice of making any fresh routine your normal way of being, you'll arrive at the final, and wonderful stage, integration. The whole exercise takes approximately 66 days. According to the research data of University College London, the spellbinder, in his teachings, calls this powerful fact the 66-day minimum. 66 days of training to make a new habit yours. So, don't quit after a few days, or a few weeks, or even after 2 months. As it relates to becoming a member of the 5 a.m. club, stick with your self-promise for at least 66 days. No matter what, do this one thing and the remainder of your life will be exponentially better. This I promise you from my heart, said the billionaire. See, all change is hard at first. That's why the spellbinder named stage 1, destruction. If it wasn't difficult at the start, it wouldn't be real change. It's supposed to be hard because you're rewriting the past patterns of your mind and destroying old ways of operating, in rewiring past programs of your heart and emotions. Do you know why the space shuttle uses more fuel in the 60 seconds after liftoff than it uses over the entire orbit around the Earth? It needs to overcome the powerful forces of gravity after it takes off, the artist answered confidently. Exactly, the billionaire affirmed. It requires a large amount of fuel to overcome those initial forces and reach escape velocity. But once it does, momentum kicks in and the craft just goes. The first phase of creating any new habit, the destruction stage, is precisely like this. You need to overcome your deeply ingrained habits, dominant rituals and traditional states of performance. You need to rise above your own forces of gravity, until your escape velocity kicks in. It's so challenging at the beginning. I'm not going to lie to you, you both have done very well getting up at 5 a.m. over the mornings you've been with me. But you will hit a wall over these first 22 days while you're in phase 1. Nothing wrong, just part of the habit installation process anyone seeking peak productivity and a richer life must go through. For most people, ready to get up before daybreak, each day of this first phase is a hardship. They feel like giving up. They complain that rising early just isn't for them, that they're not built for this routine and that it's just not worth the pain. My advice is simple. Continue at all costs. Persistency sits at the threshold of mastery. The things that feel hardest are also the ones that are most valuable. Keep remembering that doing difficult things that are very important was how the highest achievers and greatest heroes of our civilization embraced their power. Please also remember this rule. When faced with a choice, always choose the one that pushes you the most, increases your growth and promotes the unfoldment of your gifts, talents and personal prowess. So, when you feel like quitting, persevere. You'll get to the next stage soon. And understand the negative thoughts, cranky emotions and strong desires to surrender are a normal part of the process of hardwiring any new regime. The first 22 days are supposed to feel like a mild form of torture. Because stage 1 is all about the destruction of old ways of being so that new ones can be set up, right? The entrepreneur asked. Precisely, the billionaire confirmed. And just because you couldn't do something before doesn't mean you can't do it now, he added while nodding in an encouraging way. I need to repeat what I said so you absolutely lock it in. If it wasn't hard initially, it wouldn't be real and valuable change. Society has programmed us to think that because it's difficult at first, something bad is happening, that we should stop what we're doing and return to the safe house of our former normal. Zero growth and evolution toward legendary in that mode of operating. Zero. So true, agreed the entrepreneur. Everyone I know repeats the familiar every day. Okay, maybe not everyone, but definitely most people. Same thoughts, same behaviors and the same moves. The truth is not that they can't change, said Mr. Riley. It's just that they didn't make the commitment to improve and then stay with the process long Enough for their neurobiology as well as their psychology, physiology, emotionality and spirituality to work its natural wonders. Everything you now find easy you once found hard, you know. The billionaire then asked for the security guard's flashlight and focused it onto the part of the learning model related to the second stage of routinization. Thanks, Krishna, he added. See here, all change is messy in the middle. Stage 2 is called installation, because it's like you're going through an interior renovation, of sorts. Former foundations need to be torn down so that much better ones can be put up. This stage will make you feel confused, stressed out and frustrated. You'll feel like quitting even more, and dismissing your decision to join the 5 a.m. club is a terrible one. You'll long to go back to staying in your warm bed, and counting more sheep. Just know and trust that all is good. Very good, actually. And though you can't see it, you're advancing even further in the habituation of making the early rising routine yours for the rest of your life. Things are about to get easier. They really are. You're just going through the second stage of the procedure. And it only feels messy. And it only looks chaotic. The reality is you're growing beautifully. And closing in on a whole new grade of performing. In all disorder there is a secret order, said famed psychologist Carl Jung. So, when you're wiring in this priceless new morning routine, the entire structure of your brain really is in upheaval as you manufacture new neural pathways. Your whole system really is being restructured. You're honestly in seriously unfamiliar territory, sprouting green shoots, going blue ocean, conquering new territories of self-potential and accessing higher universes of human optimization. Cortisol, the fear hormone, is elevated at this time, so you'll feel scared a lot of the time. All that's happening within your brain is consuming huge reserves of energy.